Greetings respected viewers, I'm George from Ireland. Here I am outside Lord's Cricket Stadium, the home of cricket. So anyway, it's not called Lord as in the aristocratic title. It's named after Mr. Thomas Lord, who helped to set it up. He was born in 1755, he died 1832, so it still bears his name, Lord's. Anyway, the Marylebone Cricket Club is based here, or the MCC, and for a long time the MCC was the governing body of cricket, and I think it's now called the International Cricket Council, which is now based in Dubai, if I've got that right, largely for tax reasons. And the various test cricket nations have got representation on that. Obviously England was the first one, there was only one test cricket nation, and then I can't think who came next actually. Presumably Australia and South Africa, eventually New Zealand. In time India was added in the West Indies. Pakistan separated from India, they became a test cricket nation. Bangladesh separated from Pakistan, they became one. Sri Lanka was a test cricket nation relatively earlier on. Ireland, we became a test cricket nation only about 10 years ago. Now the West Indies has been a test cricket nation for quite some time, since the 1940s and so on. And obviously cricket is played outside the Commonwealth as well, in Afghanistan for example. Well, Ireland, the major portion of Ireland, we're not in the Commonwealth, not since 1949. So various cricket World Cups have been held here. The first ones were in the 70s. And they weren't every 4 years, sometimes they're every 3 years, sometimes it was a 5-year interval. So that was that. It seemed to be the sort of default setting would be held here in London. But anyway, this is the Grace Gate. Not as in mercy or innocence or something, but named in honour of William Gilbert Grace, who was a renowned cricketer, born in 1848 and died in 1915. So William Gilbert Grace was just always known by his initials, W.G. Grace. So he came from the West Country, Gloucestershire, if I've got that right. He was an incredibly tall man, a very mighty man, and he was really best known as a batsman. Wasn't as good at fielding, so hit, I don't know how many thousand runs. And though, despite being academically no great shakes, according to himself, he qualified as a doctor, and that was that. So he was meant to be an amateur. They all had to be amateurs into the early 20th century, but nevertheless, there were ways of making it up to him, of very wealthy patients paying him huge fees and things like that. I think they were allowed hotel costs and travel expenses and so on. So he lived in considerable comfort. So it's called the Grace Gate in his honour. And then you can see in here, oh yeah, on top of that pillar there's the draped urn, which is has a funerary significance, as in the ashes of the cremator will be kept there. But that's a sort of a 19th century into early 20th century motif, a symbol of mourning of the dead. Partly because the Latin word urna, it can be like a stone box, but it could mean a tomb, even if the body is buried there, not just the ashes. Anyway, so here's a bit of the lights. Can't go any further in, I'm afraid. Obviously no cricket on at this time of year. And it's got, mentioning Graham Smith, it mentions various famous cricketers around here. So we're in the St John's Wood area of London. If you ever wish to come here, St John's Wood is the tube station for it. Anyway, the Marylebone Cricket Club was not actually founded here. It's now on, I think it was called Devonshire Square, which is only about a mile east of here, and then it moved out here. But Thomas Lord had his stadium here for some time before that. What else can I say? There's a little practice ground here. The Eton-Harrow match is played here. So the Eton-Harrow match goes back to, oh my goodness, about 1805 if memory serves. And Lord Byron, when he was a schoolboy at Harrow, he appeared in that match. And there are various renowned cricketing dynasties like the Studd family at Eton, of whom C.T. Studd was a famous member. Charles Thomas Studd, if I got that right, who was an incredibly gifted sportsman, born to a very wealthy family, would now be considered multi-millionaires in modern terms. His father had made a fortune in what was then Bombay, now Mumbai. And anyway, so Studd, he was a conventional Anglican, only lukewarm in his faith, but how things changed for him. So 1787, the cricket ground was set up here by Thomas Lord, getting a view of what it's like. But C.T. Studd, he then was converted by some evangelical preacher to not being just a sort of nominal Christian, but to being absolutely zealous. And he was just fired with passion for his faith. He went up to Trinity College, Cambridge, he graduated there. He was one of several siblings, and he decided to be a missionary. So in his early 20s, he donated his huge patrimony, which would now be a couple of £1 million, to the Christian missionary movement, and he went to China. Part of, I think it's the Cambridge Seven. Well, actually only 6 of them were Canterburyans. One of them had been to some other college, like the Imperial Service College, Haileybury or something, which was not then a school as such, was often like tertiary education too. But C.T. Studd, he went out to China, evangelizing for the Christian faith, bringing the Bible to the Mandarins. As he said, he married a missionary's daughter, and they had several children. Their 2 sons died in infancy, their 4 daughters survived, and he thought it was the Almighty's way of showing to the benighted Chinese the value of girls, because back then they openly favored sons over daughters. Anyway, so he returned to this country, then he went out to the Belgian Congo and was preaching there deep in the jungle. And that was that, learned some of the indigenous languages. So there's a photo of him in all his wealth. Is he wearing his Popper's uniform at Eton and things like that? And there's a photo of him also outside his hut in the Congo. But he was happier there, said, you know, some would like to run live within the sound of a chapel bell, but I would like to run a rescue shop within a yard of hell, as he thought he was rescuing these souls from damnation by bringing them to the light of salvation. That was C.T. Studd, who died about 1930. He was honoured by the King of the Belgians for his missionary activity. So a lot of construction work going on here. You can see the commentary box in up behind. Can you? Maybe the contrast isn't enough. Yeah, if I make it, no, that's brighter. If I make it darker, you can make it out a bit, the commentary box behind me, overlooking the stadium. So unfortunately can't go in. You can get your tickets here. Sorry, it's a bit noisy for my commentary, but you're getting some idea of the scale of the place. So it's the largest cricket stadium in the British Isles by quite some way. The Oval is the other cricket stadium in London. That's to the south of the River Thames. Obviously Oval is the tube station for it. No prizes for guessing what shape it is. What else? Obviously the Cricket World Cup was held this year, and England beat New Zealand in the final. Jofra Archer, the Barbadian-born guy, he made the final catch. That was that. So anything else about this place? Not really. I'm not a cricket fan. The Oxford-Cambridge match takes place here, or the varsity match you could call it. One thing about the Eton and Harrow match is it used to be a 3-way event, as in Winchester played as well. It was over several days, part of the London season. You simply had to be there. But one day the Wickhamists behaved so disgracefully that Winchester was banned forever. But anyway, they then insolently named their own cricket pitch, their main one. They named it Lord's, and their match against Eton was their main day of the summer, a bit like another school's open day or exhibition or whatever you wish to call it. But they've since changed that in the past few years. It's no longer apposite to have that as the highlight of their calendar. So now it's just Eton versus Harrow. Apparently Harrow won this past year. Hats off to them. I'm the worst cricketer in the world, completely lacking the hand-eye coordination or the reflexes or anything like that. So here we are, Lord's Cricket Ground. Okay, so MCC as in Marylebone Cricket Club, and I'll tell you why. There was the church of Mary Le Bone, because there's the River Tyburn, but that was changed into Bone. The River Tyburn is now underneath, is now one of the lost rivers of London. It's been built over. It's a subterranean river now. But Mary Le Bone was then corrupted into Marylebone. So it's still written as Mary Le Bone, but as one word, but pronounced Marylebone. See this Danubius Hotel? That's where some of the Trump's families stayed when they visited this past June. And was the American taxpayer picking up the bill for his children who had no official position in some cases? I'm not sure. Okay, so crossing over. Anyway, get an idea of the size of the place when looking back there. Okay, so that's probably just about enough about Lord's Cricket Stadium. Much better to go in the summertime and see what it's like. Not my favourite sport, I must confess. And there's some other private cricket club meets there. To join the MCC, you either have to be a very distinguished cricketer or else you have to be very wealthy. It was like a 20-year waiting list. And for years, women weren't allowed into it. Even the English women's cricket team wouldn't be allowed to go in and blah, blah, blah. I don't know what's happened. You know, really not my scene. Okay, and I had a feeling on this church it said Mary Le Bone, but maybe it doesn't. All right, so that's enough about Lord's Cricket Stadium.